Do you ever feel exhausted at the end of the day? Even if you haven't done anything physically strenuous, there may be an invisible force at play, the drain of emotional labor. In this video, I'm going to be talking about emotional labor, what it is, and its effects. If you like content like this, please like, share, comment, and subscribe. Hey y'all, I'm Fiat Hollins, and I'm here to help women connect deeply to themselves so they can get the life they desire and stop letting folks play in their face, okay? Emotional labor is the often unseen work we do to manage our feelings and expressions in service of something or someone else. In this video, I'll be unpacking the hidden tolls of emotional labor, how it shows up in your life, relationships, why it often goes unnoticed, and how to set boundaries around it. Okay, so this is an article by Greater Good, Berkeley.edu. What is emotional labor and why does it matter? It is a new book that's out called Emotional Labor. I started reading, but I haven't finished it. But it explains how devaluing emotional labor disproportionately done by women and other disadvantaged groups perpetuates inequality. It was published April 5th, 2023 by Hope Reese. And it says here, a server smiles, soothes an angry customer who wasn't happy with his meal. A mom gently coaxes her toddler out of a tantrum when dad can't deal with it. And it goes on to say that this kind of work is important and essential, but according to journalist Rose Hackman, in her new book, Emotional Labor, often invisible. First coined by sociologist Arlie Hochschild in her 1983 book, The Managed Heart. The term has expanded since then, and in 2015, emotional labor entered the mainstream to include all of the emotional work that happens at home and in communities as well. It goes on to say that it happens in formal as well as in informal settings, but is often offloaded onto women. While it is difficult to quantify emotional labor, feminist economists use time use surveys to track leisure time. And in 2018, men averaged 49 minutes more leisure time a day than women did. Leisure time has gone up for men and down for women. Studies also show that women predominantly plan household activities and also do mental work at home. This is Rose Hackman, who wrote the book Emotional Labor. And you can see Hope Reese, who was interviewing her, asked, how does emotional labor contribute to the economy? For quite a few decades, feminist economists have thought about two forms of work: productive work, including work that produces goods and services, and reproductive work, or the work that reproduces the population. And that's going to be education, healthcare, domestic work, etc. But the truth is that fundamentally, humans don't just need a roof over their heads or food to eat. They need a sense of love, connection, community, and belonging. All humans, regardless of gender, are relational. We all need relationships with other humans to survive. Today, women represent just over half of the college-educated workforce in America, and if you look at jobs in the formal economy, for example, in the service sector or the healthcare industry, emotional labor is a big part of those jobs. Basically, providing other people with experiences, editing your emotions in order to have an effect on the emotions of other people. Those kinds of jobs are largely performed by women. Emotional labor is not a bad thing. It's actually a wonderful thing. It's a thing that ideally, I talk so fast. Jesus, okay, let me breathe. Okay, ideally everyone should be doing. But why is it that we still offload emotional labor onto women? Any kind of work seen as feminized, quote unquote, is seen as having little value. We've been incentivized from a very young age to execute these kinds of tough caregiving tasks. We are expected to be other-oriented as a gender. If we are not other-oriented, we are corrected. Now we get into the good part. The truth is, if men were incentivized to be more empathetic and more giving, if emotional labor was associated with higher status, a huge amount of neuroscientific research and psychology research shows that men are just as able to be good at emotional labor as women. It's just that they don't have the same kind of crack of the whip behind them the way that women do. Y'all see the P word? Y'all see the P word? Yeah, I know we can't talk about this without talking about patriarchy, but one of the ways in which you can understand the continuing functioning of a patriarchy is a society in which men benefit from the free labor of women. And in the case of emotional labor, they're not just benefiting from the free labor of women, but they're benefiting from the free labor of women that, as a society, we don't even give the dignity of calling it actual work. A huge way in which this extraction of labor is extraordinarily beneficial to men and how patriarchy at large is able to continue is that we refuse to accept that emotional labor. I like this filter. It's cute. Okay, let me continue. I may need to start wearing makeup. This is cute. Okay. A huge way in which this extraction of labor is extraordinarily beneficial to men and how patriarchy at large is able to continue is that we refuse to accept that emotional labor is real in spite of all the evidence that exists that shows that obviously it's extraordinarily valuable. This is the book, if you want to read it. Okay, so that means that governments and societies continue to exist without really anyone holding them accountable for the extractive, coercive labor that they're forcing onto women and people of color. That's happening, especially to people who lack power. But in a society that's very unequal, anyone who has less power is going to be expected to do way more. It's not just women serving the emotions of men. In this system of unequal distribution of emotional labor, we expect, for example, a black man to accommodate the feelings of a white man. Emotional labor isn't just a gendered problem. It's a problem that expresses the unequal states that we're in. In another part of the article, she mentions how she has empathy for men who feels like they are losers in the system due to patriarchy, because then she says she would argue from this patriarchal belief that men shouldn't have, because men are raised to believe or brought up to believe that they're not to express emotions and all that stuff, right? So men shouldn't have emotions, and so therefore they shouldn't tend to themselves and actually take care of their emotional lives. They shouldn't talk about how they feel. They shouldn't develop emotional literacy from a young age. What we know is that when boys are told that they should not cry, that they should not express themselves across a broad range of emotions. And they find it very hard to deal with a very hard world. And she ends the article with actually saying that, well, the interview was saying that a society that actually values love and connection and does not shame people by meeting each other's needs is a society that thrives. And a society that shames men for actually needing help and needing love and care and connection is a society that is deeply in crisis. So, this is emotional labor, and as it's been stated in the article, it's often seen as invisible work. And let me know how many of you ever heard of it. Don't let nobody ask you what you bring to the table, because emotional labor is a fucking thing.